Yeah, you make some great points. We had Jeff Booth on the show a couple months ago who wrote an entire book about deflation. And he said what you just said, Michael. He talked about, yeah, the Roman Empire, Weimar Republic. Basically, every single government ultimately fails because of, printing money. And it ends up in a war or taking back of the wealth from the rich. But it always ends. And once you see that cycle in a long enough perspective, you start to look at crypto a little more. We have Michael Saylor here. He's got $7 billion of Bitcoin, I think. And he started to see that paradigm when the Fed started printing money in March 2020. And he thought, wait a second, I run a public company. I have money in my treasurer. Am I being the most fiscally responsible CEO holding it in dollars? Or should I hold it in gold? Or should I hold it in Bitcoin? And it was great to see his observations. I guess last thing I'll say, Dan Held, OG Bitcoiner, was on here and he said, Brian, you've talked about freedom of speech. We spent all of 2020 fighting for freedom of speech against some of the social platforms. Then we went and ran for office and kind of had to fight for free and fair elections. But as Dan said, without financial freedom, maybe you have no other freedoms. Maybe the other ones don't matter, because if they can control you with the money, like you said, then maybe the climate change and the civil rights and the rest comes second, and it probably does if you think about it.
That's exactly right. I mean, the central banks, they're the ones that determine the value of the money that you hold, right? So they're the ones that determine how much you pay for your mortgage, how much your wages go up, how much you pay at the grocery store, and basically, when you take all those different factors into aggregate, I would say that that's total control. I mean, if someone has control over all those facets of your life, or that economic control over you, then, if they have full economic control over you, they have full control over your social life, they have full control over everything. And that's the problem with fiat currencies. This is the fundamental problem that people really need to know, understand and know about. You look through history, no fiat currency has survived continuously. Only real voluntarist currencies like gold and silver have existed for a long time. Or nowadays, like Bitcoin and other currencies that people gravitate towards out of their own freedom, not via government enforcement or coercion, but out of their own freedom. That's the sort of money that's going to last in the long run. And that's the sort of money that keeps its value over time. And so, people just need to really understand that the big problem is central banking. That's what fuels, so many bad things, so much government control, so many wars, so much debt, because governments don't like paying things honestly, right? Because if they increase taxes, that's politically unpopular. If they cut back on spending, that's politically unpopular. So what do? They just print money, right? But printing money is just another form of deficit financing, except the government is just taking away your purchasing power and redistributing it. And so, it's a big cause of wealth inequality, actually, because when the government prints money, the money has to go somewhere and it goes into stocks. We all say cryptocurrencies. And so who are the people that own those assets the most? Well, by definition, it's wealthier people. Who are the people that own the least amount of those assets? Well, by definition, it's poorer people. And so you've kind of seen the gap widen between, the very rich and people who are poor. People who are poor, they have their money and their wages basically just devalued. Whereas if you're wealthier and you own those assets in advance, your wealth on paper has gone up a lot. And you've kind of seen that in the richest people in the world. Their wealth has exploded the most during the pandemic years, more than they have in the history of any point in time. And that's because it's the government just simply printed money. And so the result is no surprise, in my opinion.